Hello everyone, this is the Mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me today as I take a deeper look into the most recent episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 6, Episode 9. I will not be doing a full episode recap as there are plenty of other content creators who do a great job covering the show. Instead, I'm going to focus on specific segments of the episode that I believe could be used as teachable moments for myself and the audience. So for this episode, I'm going to focus on Tiffany and her, baby shower, and Kimmie and Maurice's relationship. I'm going to start off with Tiffany and Lou and Maurice and Martell. So a couple of weeks ago, I said that Tiffany's line of questioning about Sheree and Martell's relationship was inappropriate and it was not any of her business. And some of you guys responded that you were actually okay with Sheree asking those questions. And I suspect that a lot of people were okay with Tiffany being disrespectful towards Sheree because they don't like Martell. So because Martell is not a likable person, Sheree deserves to be disrespected. That is kind of what I'm feeling from some of the responses. I'm not saying all of you guys are doing that, but Tiffany's line of questioning, in my opinion, was intrusive and interrogatory. It was as if she was attacking Sheree for dating Martell. So because Tiffany is not okay with the way Martell treated because Tiffany is not okay with the way Martell treated Melody, and most of us are not. I damn sure am not. Because Tiffany was not okay with that, she thought it was okay she thought it justified her pretty much interrogating Sheree and kind of sort of low-key asking her, what are you thinking? Why would you date someone like that? But not doing it in that way. But when she asked her, do you think that your hoo-ha is good enough to keep this man loyal and faithful to you, or to keep this man away from Melody? That was inappropriate for her to ask. That's none of her business. If she was really interested in having a real discussion and a conversation where she could learn from Sheree and learn about her relationship with Martell in a genuine way, she would have asked Sheree questions that were easy for her to answer. She would have asked questions that were conducive to having an open, honest discussion about Martell and Melody and Sheree and that whole dynamic. Now, some of you guys may say, well, don't be a hypocrite because people attack Ariane all the time, right? People attack Ariane for her dating Martell. But the difference between Ariane and Sheree is that Ariane attacked Melody first. Ariane interjected herself into a marriage and then tried to destroy the wife, or she allowed herself to be used as a weapon against the wife of the man who she was having an affair with. Sheree is not doing the same thing. Sheree did not do anything to Melody. Sheree did not attack Melody. She didn't disrespect Melody. So she didn't deserve to be interrogated by anybody. Now, I've said that, a lot of women like Sheree would overlook Martell's flaws because they find him attractive. I've said this on my platform more than once. But at the same time, I don't think that Sheree deserves to be disrespected because she's dating somebody that most people don't like. And Tiffany knew what she was doing and she didn't care. All she cared about was being nosy or pretty much like kind of sort of attacking Sheree under the guise of, I'm looking out for my friend Melody. That's not what she was doing it for. She was doing it for her own personal reasons that were selfish. And again, that's why it's kind of hard to feel sorry for her when she gets confronted by Martell and Marceau. I don't think that Martell and Marceau came at her incorrectly, but the optics did not look good, as I said a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm going to say this. This scene with Marceau and Martell and Tiffany initially looked triggering to me in the previews, where they didn't show the energy of the men in the room. Whenever I'm interacting with Black men, I'm usually on high alert for various reasons. But even though I'm on high alert, I do think that it is dangerous, a slippery slope when we see all Black men as like supervillains or dangerous people. So Martell and Maurice were in a public place on camera speaking to Tiffany. They didn't curse at her, not from what I remember. They were smiling with her. They were being jovial with her. And yes, it seemed like an ambush, but I don't think Tiffany was in danger. If you guys remember in season 3, when the whole crew went on a trip to Las Vegas and Martell and Melody had a confrontation on the beach, and Martell was lunging towards her, screaming at her on the top of his lungs. Like, situations like that are a lot more triggering for me than two men sitting at a table, speaking calmly, joking, smiling, asking her questions. They weren't treating her the way that she treated Sheree. Okay, so that's why I was like, I get it. I understand why people would say, oh, they don't like the way it looks and so on and so forth. But at the same time, was Tiffany being confronted or was she being questioned? Right? They didn't come at her with the same energy that they came at Lou when Lou told everybody Maurice's business about him going through depression. And this was in season 3 when they were in Las Vegas. And Maurice and Maurice pretty much checked Lou about having a big mouth. Okay. Now, I like Lou more than all the men on the cast. I like him more than Martell. I like him more than Maurice. And I damn sure like him more than Maurice. Okay. I like his disposition. I like his personality. He seems to be a reasonable guy who respects women. So I like him a lot. He appears to be a good man from what I'm seeing based on the way he treats Tiffany. So I get that, but I do think that he was a bit too eager to have an attitude and confront the guys on his wife's behalf without getting the proper context for everything that happened. I think he was doing it based on principle alone. The principle is don't come to my wife for anything. I understand that point. I do get that. But I think that Tiffany's questions were so incendiary and disrespectful that Martell wanted to speak to her directly one-on-one. Now, it would have been a better choice to have Lou there also. That would have been common sense. But I think that they had already planned a meeting with her. So, okay. Is it okay for a married woman to have a business meeting with two men without her husband? And if it's okay for her to have a meeting with two men without her husband on camera, why wouldn't it be okay for them to ask her questions about her behavior? Not in a confrontational tone, because if they cursed at her or yelled at her, I would have said, no, they're doing too much. But in my opinion, Martell and Maurice were more respectful towards Tiffany than she was towards Sheree. So it's like, okay, just because they're men, everything they do is wrong now? Is that what it is? Are people upset about the conversation with Martell, Maurice, and Tiffany because of Maurice and Martell? They don't like them? Or are they upset about it because of the fact that Tiffany is a woman, so that automatically makes her a damsel in distress? If that was the case, then she should not have had the meeting with these two men at all. She should have asked her husband for permission to have a meeting with two men who are not her husband, right? If we're going to go with the whole, these men are dangerous, it looks da-da-da-da-da, I understand that point. But when you read the energy in the room, it wasn't like that to me. It wasn't like that to me. From what I gathered, the reason why Martell and Maurice were meeting with Tiffany in the first place was because it was a business meeting. And so it sounds like this get-together was already planned before Martell had his magazine launch party and Tiffany spoke to Sheree. So if that was the case, I don't think Martell and Maurice intended to confront Tiffany or make her feel comfortable or uncomfortable or ambush her. I don't think that was the intention, but because of what had happened, they had to address the elephant in the room. It would have been weird for them to continue with the meeting and not address the fact that you smiled in my face, Tiffany, but behind my back, you're telling my girlfriend that I ain't shit and she shouldn't be with me. So how are you supposed to be a so-called business partner of mine or consultant or whatever? How are we supposed to be working together as a team if you are talking about me behind my back like a dog? To me, that's bad business. I would not work with someone who talked about me like a dog behind my back, period. So even though Martell is a blockheaded dildo, and most of us don't like him for good reason, that didn't give Tiffany license to interrogate Sheree. And that's essentially the crux of the issue. She did it because she wanted to low-key attack Martell by way of Sheree. She didn't like the way Martell treated Melody. I don't know if she ever told him this to his face. As a matter of fact, last season when Tiffany and Lou met with Martell, she was giddy and laughing and smiling. Hee hee ha ha hee hee ho. All of a sudden he's with Sheree. He's like the devil. Like, he been the devil since season 1. Martell's been the devil since season 1. Why all of a sudden now Tiffany seems as if she's so upset about him dating Sheree, or so concerned about him dating Sheree? That's why I said that it was disingenuous for me, and that's why I didn't like it. If you want to be an asshole, if you want to be a troublemaker, be a real asshole and a real troublemaker, so that when you're confronted about your bullshit, you don't back down and try to play damsel in distress and as if you're some sort of victim. That's not the way it goes. If you were confident enough to schedule a meeting with 2 men who aren't your husband and talk shit about one of those men behind their back, then in my opinion, what Martell and Marceau did was not that bad. Like, they weren't yelling at her. They weren't cursing at her. They didn't make her feel uncomfortable. They didn't make her cry like what happened when Tiffany was talking about Maurice Jr. and the vaping incident. She was crying when she was confronted. Nobody made her cry this time. Right? They were jovial. They were very intentional. I could see in their body language. They were very intentional about not making her feel uncomfortable. I don't know if it's because they wanted to maintain a working relationship with her, or because of the cameras, or because they respected her as a woman. I don't know. But I didn't feel the same type of smoke towards Tiffany as she had towards Sheree. Because again, in my opinion, I feel like she was comfortable and felt justified in interrogating Sheree because she does not like Martell or doesn't respect him. Okay? Because of what he did to Melody. And that's fair. I get that. But why is Sheree paying for that? I don't necessarily believe in attacking one woman because we don't like the things that her man is doing, while at the same time smiling in this man's face. So if you are not cool with Martell, why are you smiling and kikiing and giggling with him and making business meetings with him if you don't respect him as a man? If you're going to do that, then do it all the way, okay? If you don't have enough professional decorum to treat the woman that your business partner is dating with respect, then don't do business with him at all. You are doing too much. And then Big Lou, confronts the guys at the baby shower, which I thought was pretty big. It seemed very active. It was nice. They had catering and everything. I was like, all right, it's cute. The way they were eating though, I don't know what was funny. So Marceau, Maurice, Martell, and Big Lou have a conversation outside, and they pieced it up at the end of the conversation. They didn't drag out the beef for 2 seasons like women do. But Marceau, Maurice, Big Lou, and Martell had an argument outside, and Big Lou was ready to stand up for his wife and protect his wife. And he was like, well, if you don't want me coming to your wife for anything, don't come to my wife for shit. I think that Lou thinks that they set up the meeting to confront her about this issue. What it sounds like to me is that this meeting was already arranged prior to Tiffany speaking to Sheree. And so that's why it happened then. It would have been weird again for me to look you in your face knowing that you were talking shit about me behind my back a day earlier. And we talk about business. No, I don't want to do business with you. Sorry. But at the same time, Lewis was also right. So in this situation, nobody's 100% wrong and nobody's 100% right to me. And if that's the case, then let's squash it. If no one's 100% wrong, because 50-50 of the blame goes to Tiffany for approaching Sheree in the first place, and 50% of the blame goes to Martell and Marceau for speaking to Tiffany about this, without her husband being present, then it's good to just walk away and let bygones be bygones, because everybody was wrong in this instance. Tiffany attacked Sheree unfairly, in my opinion, because she was trying to be nosy and disrespectful, and she didn't like the way that Martell treated Melody, whatever the case may be. And Martell and Marceau were wrong for confronting or speaking to Tiffany about this without her husband being present, okay? Now it's time to let that go. All right, now on to Kimmie and Maurice. So Kimmie was talking about the fact that her sex drive is down to 0 because she's currently going through chemo radiation treatment for cancer. So she's worried that if she does not allow her husband to use her body for sexual pleasure, regardless of how she feels, that he's going to cheat on her. She was talking to Maurice in the car about, the way she feels. She doesn't feel beautiful. She doesn't have her hair, and the physical effects of the radiation is also taking a toll on her as well. She's tired. She may be nauseous, whatever, right? I've heard that people going through chemo radiation are nauseous, fatigued. Their skin hurts sometimes. There's a lot going on with them. So sex would be the last thing, or should be the last thing on her mind. But because she's married to Maurice, it is not. Okay. When Kimmie was talking about this to her friend and to Maurice, I thought about the conversations that men were having about Martell and Melody not satisfying Martell. And the therapist asked Martell, could she satisfy you? Was she able to do this? Was she physically capable of satisfying you, right? Was she physically capable of having sex? I think Derek asked this question. I think Maurice even asked the question. Was she physically capable of having sex with you? They didn't ask about postpartum depression. They didn't ask about, depression, period. They didn't ask about anxiety. They didn't ask about her moods. They didn't ask about anything pertaining to Melody as a human being, as a woman, instead of just a hole to put your penis in. This is why, in my opinion, and I spoke about this a couple of days ago, this is why I believe in seasons 1 and 2, regardless of how Martell was treating Melody, they kept saying things like the cast, including Tisha and Kimmie, were saying things like, Martell's a good guy. He's a good man. He's this, he's that. Because they don't think that a woman should have autonomy over her body. Okay? I'm not saying that a woman should deprive her man of sex because she wants to punish him for something, or because whatever. The reasons are varied. But the men and the women on the show act like unless a woman is damn near dying, and Kimmie, she's not dying, but she's fighting a deadly illness, okay? But as long as she has a hole, she's capable of having sex. So if Melody were to tell Martell, once in a while, I'm not in the mood, I just, closed some business deals, I'm working 12 hours a day, I just had 2 babies back to back, these men feel like, even if you feel like crap, even if you are suffering and fighting a deadly disease, as long as your hole is there to give me sexual pleasure. So Kimmie is the dominant parent in the household, right? She's the one who parents her stepchild while Maurice is doing whatever. She's the maid, the housemate, the housekeeper, for the most part, cooking and cleaning, because if she wasn't the maid, then she wouldn't be upset about Maurice Jr. not doing his chores, right? So she's the housekeeper, she's the dominant parent, and she's fighting a deadly illness, and she's only concerned about her man cheating on her because his needs are not getting met. So the world is on her goddamn back. The world is on her back. Pressure to maintain the home. She's fighting an illness, and all she is worried about, it seems, is making sure her husband does not stray from her, because he needs to have sex regardless of if she's suffering or not. She's suffering right now. This is why I get on women for putting these men on a pedestal. This is why. Because they do not care. Not all men are like this. Some men are caring and nurturing and compassionate and patient and empathetic, and they have self-control and discipline. But many of them do not. Especially men who are sex addicts. Okay? Maurice talked about having sex with 6 women in one day before he met Kimmie. To me, that's a sex addict. Somebody who's sexually irresponsible and undisciplined. So now you have this woman in her 50s fighting a deadly illness, going through chemo treatments, taking care of the household, taking care of your child, worried about your penis getting hard. And she's doing that because the men down there have the mentality of, if she's capable of having sex, meaning if she's there, if she's alive, no matter how she feels, no matter what she's going through, it doesn't matter. If she's physically there, she's capable of having sex. Forget her emotions, forget her thoughts, forget anything she's going through. Any suffering, it does not matter. You beat her ass, you abuse her, you talk shit about her, you cheat on her, it doesn't matter. As long as you're physically there, you are supposed to have sex with your man. That's the way that she's thinking, because that's the way the culture is down there. Okay? And in many parts of the country as well. This is why I low-key think that some of the cast members sided with Martell during the divorce, or they did not give Martell the tongue lashing that he deserved, because they kind of agreed with his premise that if Melody ain't giving you sex, then he should be out here running the streets, even though Melody gave him 4 children, so she's fucking him to some extent. Something's going on. But if she ain't doing it 24/7 at the drop of a hat, regardless of the 4 babies, regardless of the businesses, regardless of everything else she has to do, cooking, cleaning, whatever else, if she ain't doing it at the drop of a hat, then she deserves to get cheated on for years and disrespected. It'll make no damn sense to me for a woman to be worried about her husband cheating on her while she's battling a deadly illness and going through treatment for it, while she's taking care of the household and raising his child. I'm not saying that Kimmie is wrong for feeling that way, but I'm angry that she feels that way. She feels that way because she was groomed and conditioned into thinking that a man's needs always supersedes your own. So you have to bend over backwards and do everything to accommodate the man. Otherwise, he'll justify cheating, right? So Melody was doing 85% of what Martell wanted. That 15% she wasn't doing was a reason for him to justify cheating for 5 years. Okay? And this is how men continue to manipulate and control women. So even if I'm bringing the bare minimum to the table, I want you to be afraid of losing that bare minimum by way of not giving me sex. So I'm not providing for you financially because Kimmie already had her own money. I'm not raising my own child that's not even yours. I'm not helping you run the house, right? You're fighting a deadly illness. I'm just driving you to the doctor and talk to you about it. But instead of focusing on your healing, I want you to be afraid of losing me if you don't keep my dick wet. Pardon my French, but I'm incensed about this right now. That's insane to me, but that's the way it is, because many men will cheat on their sick wives. The wife is the one who was maintaining the household. She was one cooking and cleaning and working, right? 50-50 women, taking care of all the kids. She gets sick, the man goes off with somebody else. It isn't always happening that way. I'm not saying that Maurice is a horrible person, but if your wife who's suffering from cancer or who's trying to heal from cancer is more afraid of not pleasing you sexually than she is concerned about recovering from this deadly disease so that she can continue to be a stepmother to your child and maintain the household, then that is Maurice's fault. He has done something to her or said something to her or made her feel like if she doesn't please him sexually, then he's going to look for options elsewhere. This is why during seasons 2 and 3, where Martell would speak to the guys about what he did, none of them really called him out for his bad behavior. In fact, the only thing they did was get vasectomies. Okay? When Martell got Ariane pregnant, that put the fear of God in these men, and Maurice and Marcel. And in my mind, I was thinking, why did Maurice get a vasectomy if Kimmie is beyond childbearing age, 1, and 2, she doesn't want any more kids? Why would that be something that you do behind your wife's back, or even, with her knowledge? Kimmie does not trust Maurice 100%. She doesn't. The reason why she bends over backwards to accommodate him is because she's afraid of losing him. So now I'm going to keep myself on a treadmill, working my ass off, working outside the home, catering business, nursing, dominant parent, cleaning up the house, right? Emotional support. While based on what we see, you're bringing in the bare fucking minimum. Based on what we see, Maurice is bringing in the bare minimum to the marriage. All he's bringing to the relationship is companionship and penis. And this is why I said a couple of weeks ago, last week or whatever, I've said it more than once. This is why I said that all these men have to bring to the table is penis and company. And women, especially women of a particular age who don't want to be alone, right? Who never been married, in their 40s or whatever, in their 50s. They will bend over backwards to accommodate these men to the detriment of their own mental and emotional health and even physical health. Maurice acts like he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know why his wife feels the way she does about certain things. He acts oblivious to things on purpose. Okay? Weaponized incompetence. I'm going to act like I don't know this is a problem. I'm going to act like, asking my son to help out around the house is something I just forgot. There's 20 things to do in that list, and none of them is what your wife, who is sick with cancer, still putting out, giving you sex when you want to, is on that list. She's not a priority at all. So I'm bending over backwards, paying the bills more than likely, paying 50-50 with the bills, taking care of the house, taking care of your child, and I'm worried about losing you while I am battling or fighting for my life. All right. Now I understand why Martell was not ostracized from the group, because they low-key agree with the way that he treated Melody, in a sense that, well, if she ain't putting out, he's justified in cheating. It's okay for him to be with another woman. If she ain't giving him sex all day, every day, can you do it? What does that mean? Are you capable of having sex? Meaning what? As long as I have a hole, I'm available? As long as the hole is there, no matter how I feel, right? If I'm tired, if I'm suffering, if I'm in pain, if I'm depressed, it don't matter. The hole is there. This is why I said women who think that having sex with a man is a flex, women who think that a man cheating on his wife is a flex, it's not. These men will literally put their meat in anything, okay? And it's well documented. Anything. Anything. Animals, inanimate objects, babies, unfortunately. These men don't care. As long as their meat is hard, they want someone to satisfy their incessant animal desires. And it's not all men. Some men, again, have self-control. Some men respect their wives. Some men know that women are human beings too, and sex isn't just a switch you turn off and on for a woman. It's not. But it is for a man who's a sex addict, who doesn't respect his wife, who sees her as an object. In that instance, it is what it is. I hope that one day Kimmie wakes up, and I'm not saying that I want her to divorce Maurice, because she obviously loves him and she doesn't want to be alone. Okay, I understand that part. I don't want to make people feel bad for needing companionship. That's not a bad thing. We're human beings. But I want her to wake up one day and stop doing so much for Maurice. Stop being afraid of losing him to the point where you lose yourself. Stop being afraid of losing this man to the point where you lose yourself. Okay? Kimmie is like many women in our community who've never been married. Okay? 25% marriage rate. And the men have done this for a reason. I think the men have starved the women in our community of love and affection and attention so that we can lower our expectations and expect and accept the bare minimum. So let me not marry these women for 20 years, 25, 30 years, and then when they're in their 40s, right, self-sufficient and successful on their own, let me come back in with my raggedy, sick, old ass and look for this woman to take care of me when I refused to do so when she was in her 20s and her 30s and she needed my help. Now she don't need me no more. Now she's her own woman. Here I come with a hard penis and a smile and baggage. Okay? Now we're good enough for marriage when we've built our lives on our own. You didn't want to build it with us, but now that we've proven to you that we're worthy of being a wife because we can pay for your lifestyle, we can make you secure and put you on a pedestal. Now that we've done that, we're good enough to be wives, right? Us being strong, independent black women was an issue when we were in our 20s and 30s, but now that we're in our 40s and 50s, our strong, independent black womanness is benefiting you. So you're okay with it now. These men aren't okay with black women being independent in their 20s and 30s because, you know, it's harder to control those kinds of women, and those women have more options and those women have more expectations. But now in your 40s, your expectations are lower, you're more desperate, and you got money, you're the perfect wife for me. Now that you know your place as my protector, my provider, black woman, we can ride off happily into the sunset. Now, I'm not saying that this is exactly Maurice and Kimmie's dynamic, but it's not far off, and I've seen it more than once. Okay? I hope Kimmie wakes up one day and puts herself first. Period. Puts her peace first, her healing first, her happiness first, everything first. Maurice, whatever. Because Kimmie was thriving before she met Maurice. But again, he had to break her down and make her wait. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. She's getting older. Okay, more desperate. You know, not to say Kimmie should be desperate, but that's what it is out here. 25% marriage rates. Most black women have never been married by the age of 45, 50 years old. So many of us are waiting for this Negro unicorn in shining armor, and it's actually another burden and liability and responsibility. Maurice is a burden for Kimmie. Yes, he gives her emotional support, but at what expense? At what cost? All right, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. If you want to order an astrology, tarot, or book a personal coaching session with me, you can go to my website, submit payment via Cash App or credit card. The link is in the description box. I look forward to reading your comments. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will speak to you soon.